Everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. I am Keshav Agrawal and I lead the product management for eBay Live. And before this, I led our e-commerce search experience at Walmart for multiple years. Today, I want to talk about one of the biggest changes happening in software, the shift from keyword search to conversational search. And I'm super excited to talk about this topic with you all. This isn't just another AI feature. It's fundamentally changing how people discover information, interact with product, and complete tasks. In the next 25 minutes or so, I will explain why this shift is happening, the technology is making it possible, and what every product and engineering team should be thinking about as they build the AI native experiences. Let's start with a simple observation. Search hasn't really changed in over 2 decades, whether it was Google, an e-commerce marketplace, or an enterprise knowledge base. The interaction was basically the same. You typed a few keywords, the system returned a rank list of documents, and then you search again if you didn't find what you wanted. AI is changing this interaction completely. Um, Instead of retrieving documents, the system helps solve the user's problem directly. Think about the difference. Imagine you're shopping for a laptop. Traditional search might be gaming laptop under 1500. Conversational search sounds more like I'm a software engineer. I travel every week and I want something powerful enough to run local AI models. What would you recommend? You could give a lot more context, and the answers is much richer response as well as personalized. The AI understands your profession, budget, mobility requirement, and workload all from a single sentence. So instead of filtering thousands of product, it starts narrowing down solutions. That's the real shift we are seeing. Search is evolving from a retrieval to reasoning. And so why is this such a big deal? Because keywords were always a compromise. Humans don't naturally think in keyword. We think in goals, we think in questions, we think in conversations. So every time we searched, we had to translate our thoughts into language the search engine understood. AI removes the translation steps completely. For example, suppose someday someone says, I'm planning my first trip to Japan next sprint. I want somewhere that's beautiful, but not too crowded. There's almost no useful keyword there, but there's a lot of intent. The AI can understand that now. It's a first time traveler to Japan, spring season, scenic destinations, preference for less crowded location. That's enough information for AI to recommend Kyoto alternatives like Kanazawa or Takayama without the users explicitly asking for those location. That's the power of conversational search. It understands what you are trying to accomplish and not just the words you type. As a product team, this is important because our job isn't helping users search. Our job is actually helping users succeed. And this way, the magic is happening with the AI now. This isn't a feature trend, by the way. It's already happening across every industry. In enterprise software, employees are asking questions from browsing documentation. Instead of searching for VPN policy, they ask, can I access our production environment while traveling internationally? The AI is understanding the question, finding the relevant policy, and giving the answer. This is already becoming table stakes. Customer support is another great example. Rather than forcing customers through decision trees, AI agents understand the issue, ask follow-up questions, and often resolve the problem without human intervention. In healthcare, physicians use conversational search to summarize clinical guidelines. In education, students don't retrieve content, they interact with an AI tutor. And in e-commerce, per se, which is where I spend most of my time, we're seeing shoppers move from filtering product to describing what they actually need in much longer statement and context, and AI is able to help them complete the entire mission. The common theme across all of these use cases is simple. People don't just want information, they want outcomes. To understand why conversational search is better, we first have to understand what keyword search was missing. Keyword search assumes that matching words means matching intent, but language doesn't work that way. Let's use a simple example to specify that. Search for the word Python. Are you talking about the programming language, the snake, a data science course, a machine learning framework, or maybe a children's education program? The keyword alone doesn't tell us. Human resolves ambiguity naturally because we use surrounding context. Computers traditionally cannot. That's why a user had to keep refining the searches. AI changes this because it doesn't just process words, it processes relationship between words. Context becomes more important than the keyword itself. And this brings us to one of the greatest breakthrough in modern AI, semantic understanding. Let's look at this example on the slide. Someone says, I'm beginning software development and want an easy language for machine learning. Notice they never mention Python, yet almost everyone in this room immediately thinks of Python. Why? Because your brain connects concepts rather than matching words. Modern language models work in a very similar way. They recognize that beginner software development, easy to learn, and machine learning frequently appear together with Python in millions of documents. They understand the meaning rather than syntax. This is why today's AI systems can answer questions that have never been asked before in exactly the same way. They aren't memorizing responses. They are reasoning over relationship, which is what our brain does today. And once you understand the shift from keyword matching to semantic understanding, you have understood the foundation of conversational search. Everything we'll discuss next just builds on top of this capability. So let's put all this together and see what a conversational search experience actually looks like. Imagine I say I need a laptop for AI development. A traditional search system immediately shows me thousands of laptops. But that's not actually enough information to make a recommendation. A conversation system behaves differently. It asks for clarifying question to further refine my intent. Do you prioritize portability or or you want maximum performance? And if I say like I travel every week, now the AI actually has more information. So instead of recommending bulky gaming laptops, it starts recommending me lighter machines with dedicated GPU. And if I give it more information, for example, what about battery life? Because it asked me that, notice something interesting. I never say laptop again, yet the system knows exactly what I'm referring to. That's because it remembers the conversation. It has a memory. There's a huge shift in user experience. Search is no longer a series of independent queries. It's one continuous conversation that becomes more personalized with every intersection. That brings us to one of the most important ideas in conversation search context. Context is what makes a conversation feel intelligent. There are four things the system is constantly tracking. First, it remembers what you've already asked. Second, it remembers what it has already answered, so it doesn't repeat itself. Third, it learns your preferences. Maybe you have said you always prefer open source tools, or you are shopping on a budget, or you prefer Apple product. It carries those preferences forward. Finally, it understands your current objective. Are you researching, comparing, buying, troubleshooting? And that objective changes how the system responds. Think about talking to a colleague. You don't repeat the entire conversation every 5 minutes. The AI should be the same way. Good conversational system reduces the cognitive effort required for users. So how does the system actually understands what we're saying? This is where this new phenomena of natural language processing or NLP comes in. It's an old phenomenon to be honest, but it has amplified with the in the age of AI. NLP is the layer that converts human language into structured information that machine can reason with. Let's use example on this slide. I need a restaurant that's open after my meeting. A human immediately understands three things. First, the user wants a restaurant. Second, the timing matters. And third, the restaurant has to be open after another event. NLP extracts all this information automatically. It identifies the intent, the entities, the constraint, and relationship between them. It's doing much more than keyword matching. It's trying to understand the meaning behind a sentence. Without NLP, conversation search wouldn't exist, to be honest. Once NLP understands the request, transformer models do the heavy lifting. If you've used ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or Microsoft Copilot, you've already interacted with transform models. They represented one of the biggest breakthroughs in AI because they can process an entire sentence or even an entire conversation at once. Earlier, AI model read language almost one word at a time. Transformers look at everything together. That allows them to understand relationship across large passages of text. That's why they can summarize documents, answer questions, generate code, translate languages, and hold long conversations. Another way to think about this is that NLP helps the computer understand the user's question. Transformer help the computer reason about the answer. They are the engine powering today's conversational experiences together. Earlier, we talked about semantic understanding, and this where the concept becomes practical. Traditional search compares words, semantic search compares meaning. Let's actually look at this example in action. If someone asks, how do I secure cloud API? And let's say another asks, what are the best practices for API protection? These two questions don't share many words. A traditional search system might return actually very different result, but semantically, they're asking exactly the same thing. So AI can understand, process these two questions, understand, um, and into embedding, let's say, and you understand the reasoning. So you don't need to understand the math. The important point in this is questions with similar meaning end up close together, even if they are written completely different. That's why modern AI search is much more forgiving. You do not have to guess the exact wording. They simply describe what they need. Once everything has been converted into embedding, we need a new way to store and search that information. Traditional databases are designed to find exact values. Think about searching for a computer ID or a order ID. That's deterministic. But AI search is different. We aren't looking for exact matches. We're looking for more similar meanings. And that's what vector databases are built for. Instead of asking, does this document contain this exact word, we are asking which documents are closest in meaning to this question. And that's called similarity search, which is one of the core foundation of semantic search. Modern vector databases can search through millions or even actually billions of embedding in milliseconds. They're one of the key technologies that made large-scale conversational search practical. Think of a relational database as looking up a phone number in a contact list. A vector database is more like asking, show me five people who think similarly to this person. It's searching for similarity rather than identity. That capability is foundational to every modern AI platform. So far, we have talked about understanding language and retrieving information, but conversations are more than a sequence of question and answer. Someone or something has to manage the conversation itself, and that's actually the role of dialogue management. Think of it as the conductor of the orchestra. It decides what happens next. Let's take the example on this slide. The user says, I'm planning a vacation. This isn't enough information to provide a useful answer. So instead of guessing, the system may ask, which country? And then if the user says Japan, still not enough. So the AI may actually ask, like, are you looking for a sightseeing, transportation, or accommodation? What exactly is your need and intent? And this is exactly how a human expert would behave. They don't dump information, they ask clarifying questions until they understand the user's goal. Great conversational product like AI search don't just answer well, they know when not to answer yet. That's often the difference between an assistant that feels intelligent and one that feels frustrating. Earlier, we talked about context. Now let's look at different layers of context a production system maintains. The first is session context. This is everything we have discussed during the current conversation. If I've been asking about AI laptop, the system shouldn't suddenly recommend gaming desktop. The second actually is user context. Super critical. This is what the system learns over time. Maybe I always write code in Python. Maybe I always ship within a certain budget. Maybe I prefer Apple product. These long-term preferences make future conversations feel much more personalized, and hence, which is one of the core foundation of all the experiences we're seeing now on different AI chatbots like ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude. Third is environmental context, your location, the current time, your organization, even the device you're using. If I ask, like, find me a coffee shop nearby, the answer should obviously be different in New York than it is in London. And finally, the task context. This is one that's often overlooked. The same user can ask similar question while trying to achieve completely different goals. Searching for API documentation, troubleshooting an outage, planning a vacation, buying a laptop, each task requires a different style of assistance. The best conversation system understands all four layers simultaneously, and that's what makes them feel like search engine, less like search engine, but more like knowledgeable assistant, which is something we all need in our life now. So, search is no longer limited to text, by the way. Increasingly, user expects AI to understand whatever they have in front of them. That might be an image, a spreadsheet, a PDF, a chart, or even a video. For example, imagine you are repairing industrial equipment. Instead of describing the machine, you simply upload a photo and ask, why is this? wall leaking. Or imagine you're a sales manager. Rather than manually analyzing hundreds of rows in Excel, you upload the Excel sheet and ask, what are the biggest sales trend over the last quarter? AI combines visual understanding with language reasoning. It doesn't just recognize what's in document, it actually understands what you're asking about it and why you're asking about it. And that's why the multimodal search is becoming the default experience rather than a premium feature. Users don't think in file format, they actually think in questions. Now, we've come to one of the most important concepts in enterprise AI these days, which is RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. If there's one slide I wanted to remember from today, it's this one. Large language models are incredibly powerful, but they have an important limitation. They only know what was available when they were trained. They don't automatically know your country's or your company's latest product catalog, your engineering documentation, yesterday's financial report, or this morning's policy update. That's where RAG comes in. Instead of relying only on the model's memory, we first retrieve the most important information from trusted sources. Then we provide that information to the model as context before it generates an answer. Think of it like an open book exam. Instead of answering from memory, the AI is allowed to look up the right documents first. And that's why has dramatically improved the accuracy while also making response more traceable and explainable. This architecture has become the standard for enterprise AI these days because organizations want answers grounded in their own data, not just public internet knowledge. Whether you're building an internal knowledge assistant, a customer support chatbot, or an e-commerce shopping assistant, chances are you're building a RAG system. This slide summarizes why RAG has become the dominant architecture for enterprise search. A standalone language model is excellent at reasoning, but reasoning alone isn't enough. Businesses need current information, they need proprietary information, and they need trustworthy information. Imagine asking, what's our current return policy? A standard LLM might generate something that sounds plausible, but a RAG system retrieves the actual policy from your knowledge base before answering. And that's a huge difference. One is guessing based on training, the other is answering based on evidence. And that's why nearly every enterprise AI product today, from Microsoft Copilot to Salesforce Agentforce to enterprise search platform, is built around retrieval. The goal isn't just intelligence, it's actually grounded intelligence. We have covered a lot of individual technology, so let's actually bring it together now. Think of conversational search as a pipeline rather than a single model. It starts with natural language processing, which understands the user's request. Transform model interpret the context and reason about the problem. Semantic search converts meaning into embedding and retrieves the most important and relevant information. Vector databases make that retrieval fast and scalable. Dialogue management keeps the conversation coherent across multiple interactions. And in enterprise application, the RAG connects all of this to trusted business data. One takeaway I'd encourage you to remember is this. There is no single technology called conversational search. It's actually a full-fledged architecture. It's a combination of multiple technologies working together seamlessly. As product leaders and engineers, our challenge isn't choosing one model. It's actually designing an end-to-end system that delivers accurate, contextual, and trustworthy experience for users. So, who should be building that? At this point, you might be asking, this sounds like something only AI company needs to worry about. I would actually argue the opposite. Every company is becoming a search company. Whether you're building an e-commerce marketplace, an enterprise application, a healthcare platform, or a financial product, the users are trying to find information and complete tasks. The question is no longer whether you will use conversational search. The question is how quickly you will adopt it. Developers have an opportunity to build experiences that understands user instead of just processing request. Architects have the opportunity to design systems that combine language models, retrieval, and enterprise knowledge into scalable platforms. And product leaders have perhaps the biggest opportunity of all. We need to rethink the user experience. So instead of asking what feature should we build, we should ask what goals are users trying to achieve and how can AI help them achieve these goals with fewer steps. That's the shift from designing interfaces to designing intelligent experiences. If you remember only four ideas from today's session, I make them these. First, search has fundamentally evolved. We have moved from matching keywords to understanding user intent. That's a completely different interaction model, which is reshaping all of search across industries. Second, conversational search isn't one technology. It's an architecture made of NLP, transformer models, semantic search, vector databases, dialogue management, and in most enterprises, RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. Third, context is the differentiator. Remembering what users said, understanding their preferences, and adapting responses based on their goals is what makes AI feel conversational instead of transactional. And finally, trust matters. The best AI systems don't just generate fluent answers, they generate answers grounded in reliable, up to date information. Accuracy, transparency, and trust are what separates enterprise AI from a chatbot demo. So, I like to leave you with one final thought. Every major shift in computing has made technology more natural. We move from punch cards to command lines, from command lines to graphical user interface, from GUI to touchscreens, and now from keywords into more conversation. That is the trajectory. Users don't want to learn how software works. They want software that understands them. And I don't think conversational search is the end state. It's actually the beginning. Over the next few years, search will evolve into AI agents that don't just answer questions, they will complete tasks. They will compare product, book travel, resolve support issues, analyze reports, and collaborate with us to get our work done. That's a much bigger opportunity than simply improving search. It's about redefining how humans interact with software. The organization that invests in these capabilities today won't just build better search experiences, they'll actually build the next generation of digital product. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope this session has given you a practical framework for thinking about conversational search, not just as an AI feature, but as a new way of designing product and user experiences end to end, which starts from understanding the user's goal, their intent, their context, and providing a much more personal and contextual answer. If you're working on AI search, RAG, enterprise knowledge systems, or AI powered product experiences, I'd love to continue the conversation after the session. Feel free to connect me on LinkedIn. Come actually find me during the conference. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.